later, if you look to the east of Botany Bay, one morning you would have seen the horizon filled with the sails of tall ships. The first fleet had been sent. It was 1788. And they sailed into Botany Bay on the 20th of January 1788. And Governor Phillip did not like the layout of the soil, the area, the region, and the fleet sailed back out along the coast until arriving at what is now called Sydney Harbour. And instantly they recognised one of the most beautiful harbours that the world has ever seen. And on the 26th of January, they sailed into what is now called Sydney Harbour. And on the 7th of February, 1768, Governor Phillip held a ceremony and made a formal declaration of colonising the Eastern Coast.
好，今日咧就 live 過向呢個咩公投The Voice 公投即係 Say No 嗰度 ，OK？ 向公投呢個即係所謂為原住民澳洲原住民嘅即係納入呢個所謂澳洲嘅憲法說不嘅 rally，OK？
Narrow strip of land through to what are now called the Blue Mountains or the Great Dividing Range. From 1788 until 1815, the full impact of colonisation hit the First Nations people who belonged to the country on that narrow strip of land. And they went north and they went south. But then in 1815, former military man William Cox completed a roadway of 101 miles over the Blue Mountains and down onto the rolling, endless, grassy plains of the region we now know as Bathurst. The settlers swarmed over that mountain in 1815 with their sheep and cattle. And what they saw with their eyes was a vista that their eyes had never seen before. Rolling, grassy, endless plains that just went that way forever. They saw this magnificent vista. Their eyes had never seen the like of it in the UK. But their eyes saw something else. Their eyes were filled with wealth. They saw the wool, they saw the beef, they saw the wheat in their mind's eye. And hell on earth was unleashed on the Wiradjuri nation. Eventually, there was resistance by the and they threatened the continuation of the colony. And so, response to that happened and the massacres began. And it is reported, I don't want to tell you this, but if the truth is going to set us free, if we are all going to get out of prison and understand each other more deeply, we have to deal with this stuff. A meeting of settlers is reported was held at Bathurst in about 1820. And the decision was made to go out and kill all the blacks. That's the only way to do it. And a supplementary decision was made that day. It is reported. I wasn't there. I can't verify it. The report comes through the newspapers all the time. a decision was made to kill the women and children first, because that was the surest way of getting rid of the race.
Is it straight?
I think I've shared enough about how our legal divide began. The only way that we can draw together with each other is to sit at the table and say, there it is, there's all the written records, that is the truth. Together, what do we want to do about it? Well, I mentioned when I began, and I'll finish with this. I'm part of a nationwide people's movement called a National Act of Recognition. And we have launched the truth-telling in Australia. It's led by First Nations and later Australians working together, developing a truth-telling model. And in October last year, 100 people, leaders from all over Australia, stood at Kamay Botany Bay on Saturday the 28th of October last year, and there we planted our boots where the British planted their boots that day they launched that first armed attack. And there we brought all the written records into the open and we placed them under public scrutiny. And there 100 people went on camera, on film, to stand and in unison proclaim a declaration of recognition of our true history. That was 100 people. We launched that day the truth-telling in Australia. And what happened? Did we come out of it more hostile with each other than before we went in? Let me tell you that as we told the truth and stood up to be counted and allowed no gloss on anything but told it like it is, the peace came down upon the gathering. And in the aftermath of that, it's now 9 months ago, that peace and joy, that confidence, that trust, and the first green shoots of love have begun to flourish. And I'm here to tell you as I finish, I'm not going to give a big time here. On the 2nd of March, just after the next Christmas, we are going to open that opportunity up for the Australian public. And we are going to have a much larger gathering, much larger than 100 people, but it will be for everyone who wants to come, who has a mind for telling the truth, no matter what it looks like, because we have this conviction. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Thank you very much.
He travelled a long way, so give him another clap while I remember him. So we've got another speaker. If you don't know me, my name is Mabungari Cindy Roberts. I come from the Bundjalung. I come from a tribe of the Bundjalung Nation. I'm a Widjabul woman. My mother, her father is a Widjabul man, and my father is a Yorta Yorta man. My father has now passed away. My father is Billy Briggs. I don't speak for this way, but my family comes from this way. But I follow my Roberts side. I follow my grandfather of the Widjabul tribe of the Bundjalung Nation. We have 15 tribes within the Bundjalung Nation, and I come from one of those tribes. So, if you don't know me, I'm just introducing myself, but we have another speaker right now, and he's a tribal elder, and my uncle's name is Uncle Michael Gillard, and I will let him introduce himself. Uncle Michael, is he around? Clap. Where? So I can't speak for my elders. Like I said before, I've been sent with a message from my elders, and my elders say no to the voice. So I'm their messenger.
Ya badai, ngaya gila, ngayu ali amardi tain. Dapudu orang ganai dari. Now, it's not normal that I would translate, but I'm just saying that I come from the Ualiai tribe, and I acknowledge that I'm on Gurnai country, and what's this one? Wurundjeri, I think it is. But anyway, I apologise for making that mistake, but I know Gurnai. If I can just say this to you, I'm the last guy of the Fab Four who put the Aboriginal embassy up in 1972. And so our way of protest then was that the old people kept passing resolutions at meetings constantly for 20, 30 years prior. As young people, fresh out of high school, we determined to change the pathway. And fresh out of high school, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, as far as we're concerned, we said, fuck it. They took our country by force, so we have to show a bit of force. And we were lucky because we had some elders at that time who told us that we don't need leaders who are going to be dead, we don't need leaders in jail, and we don't need leaders who are discredited and have bad names that they bring upon themselves because of their actions and their choice of lifestyle. And so, as a young person at that time, going through law, which earned me the right to wear this, a lot of people wear red headbands and have no legal right under our law and custom to wear those red headbands. There's a lot of learning to do, and I'm still learning. However, I can say to you that as a result of my being out there in the protest on the streets, I learned that the white fella, he's too good at knowing how to fight military war and be a combatant. He's experienced, that's in his DNA, that's part of his epigenetics. Deep inside, Europeans, when they came here, they were already used to wars, they were already used to invasion, and so they knew what they were doing. And of course, the first thing you do is that you, and what Lindsay was talking about, they knew exactly what they were doing. And so those black fellas who opposed, you either shoot them, poison them, or just get rid of them, character assassinate them, totally destroy them. And then you go and get another mob, and you bring them in and you make them friendly to you. Well, that's exactly what Albanese's done with Megan Davis and Pat Anderson and Marcia Langton, etc., and Noel Pearson. Mind you, all these people are tied to mining companies, and all everything that they do and learn is paid for mining companies, not by governments. And so these people are tied to a string. That is the hidden government that's operating in this country. I know that because I worked with at the highest level, and being part of a team that was called Whitlam team back in the day, I was taught how to fight and how to fight whitefellas' way. So I went back, instead of completing an economics commerce degree, I went back and did a law degree and political science to understand how to undermine the system. This system here is a false one. And of course, what we're seeing right before us now with this referendum is in fact a charade. It's a scam. And it's a very cleverly devised scam. And this scam started in 1999 in Buckingham Palace. And the scam started when Marcia Langton, Lois O'Donoghue, Patrick Dodson, PTU, and there was one other person, I can never remember that person's name. But I was in London at the time, and I went and I talked with a man called Geoffrey Robinson, who was Australia's QC barrister operating in the British courts, and another lady called Margaret Ward, who was an Australian barrister operating in the English courts. And I talked about how do we go out, we want to go now after England for what they did to our people. And of course, they were very reluctant because, you see, believe it or not, the pillars that Australia are built on are very fragile. And as the church and the Bible says, you build on the rock, not upon the sand. And so Australia is built on sand. And there is a very clever way in which we can undermine and totally destroy the powers that be in this country. But the question that we all have to ask ourselves as blackfellas is, all right, when we bring down and topple this system, which we have the potential to do, what goes in its place? How do we restructure? And this is one of the things that my colleagues, the elders out there in the desert, we've had meetings out there. I'm organising to bring them together so we can confront Canberra face to face, as we did back in 1972 when we set the embassy up. Right? We need to go straight to the heart. We need to attack and talk to those people who are making the decisions, the decision makers. And that includes the financial corporate network that operates and dictates the government. And so we're working on a strategy to bring things into focus on our terms, not on their terms. We talk on our terms. We're on our country, and we have the potential to be able to talk on our terms. Having studied and worked as a lawyer practicing law, my forte is constitutional law and criminal law, and a few other little areas of expertise. And one of the things that I noticed when I going through that system, I found 4 court cases that date back to the first one was 1849 in the New South Wales Supreme Court, which sat here in Melbourne in 1837. There was another one that came and they had a decision made here in the Port Phillip District Court. And they called it the Port Phillip District Court in 1837. There was 3 cases. One was called Jack Congo Murrell, who was a Darug man from the Nepean River in Sydney, who killed a fellow Aboriginal person under tribal law. He speared him and killed him, and they charged him with murder. And they challenged the court that this jurisdiction cannot charge me because I am operating under my law and custom, and I kill that man under my law. He went to trial, and they challenged it. Now, he didn't go to jail, but something else came out of that court case. And what came out of that court case was the lawyer for this old man was saying, well, he's not a British subject. He's answerable to his own law. He's not answerable to your law, this law, because it's imposed upon him. And so the court, a bloke called Justice Forbes, he said in his decision that we in the colony of New South Wales have been ordered to treat these people and give them protection under English law. And therefore, if we give them protection under English law from the white fellas killing us, then those Aborigines are subject to the same law as well, and we can prosecute them for killing their own kind. But he was never jailed. But there was something else. His lawyer, and I've got the transcript, his lawyer said, well, if this man, if this person is in fact a British subject and is operating under English law, well then surely we are obliged to compensate his people for the land that we took from him. That was the first time land rights came up in a Western court. And the judge said that Aborigines could not exercise sovereignty because we were the missing link. That's my words. But basically they were saying that we were not civilised enough to exercise sovereign decision-making, and that Aboriginal people did not have equivalents of parliaments and courts within their system, and as a consequence, Aborigines cannot be considered civil enough to be compensated for the taking of their land. They are barbaric people who wander around the country looking for a feed to keep their people alive and know nothing about civil organisation. That was the first one. And so based on that, they said that because we didn't have government, we didn't know what we were doing. Then the country was terra nullius from a sovereign decision-making point of view. So we were people, but we had no decision-making powers. That's what they said. But little did they know. It took them until Mabo to change that whole circumstance. Then there was another case, and I'll come to Mabo because I think you need to know. Then there was another case called Bonjon and another one called Ballard. 1837, 1839, and then there was another one called Attorney General versus Brown in 1847. In the in both Ballard and Bonjon, the same challenges were put up to the court that they did not have jurisdiction. These men went to trial, and they were both found, one, the Crown withdrew all the evidence, and the second one was that the Crown, the jury found him not guilty because he operated under his law and custom. Now, that tells us some very important things, because I've been looking at all the court cases since when blackfellas tried to hide their criminal activity by saying that they were not subject to the British law. And so the courts have found against them on every occasion, and they'll continue to do so. Now, what we do have, though, is that we have right that's on our side. And so Mabo, when Mabo came about, Mabo tipped the scales in our favour. Now, all these white lawyers and the black lawyers who have been assimilated into the white system, these black lawyers only look at the white letter, black and white letter of the law. They do not read the grey areas in between. And what's written in between in that Mabo decision is that it creates joint sovereignty. How does it create joint sovereignty? Well, first of all, let's look at the realities of that joint sovereignty. You see, they don't have the flags up here yet, but I guarantee...
That flag over there. Yep.
I guarantee there'll be an Aboriginal flag up here somewhere.
Yeah, that flag over there on your left side.
That Aboriginal flag is a representation of Aboriginal recognition of Aboriginal sovereignty. That's not a symbolic gesture. Because you see, in law, you can be prosecuted for treason for flying that flag. In reality. So this Parliament and politicians, if they don't believe that Aboriginal sovereignty exists, then take that bloody flag down. And so we as commoners, as people on the ground, have no bloody idea how to exercise our rights as sovereign peoples using that flag, flying over Parliament. They also fly over the courts, by the way. They also fly over every administrative and municipal system of government in this country. They fly over the schools. And so the reality of our existence as a sovereign people is that flag. Now that flag, when it first came into existence at the Aboriginal Embassy in 1972, in June of 1972, I can give you the date, right, came from Adelaide. And of course, when they brought that flag was a symbol of unity. It was a symbol of unity fighting for land rights. And that flag is a land rights symbol that's now much greater. And by the way, by law, that flag is no longer owned by Aboriginal people, it's owned by our coloniser. Right? Because the coloniser has passed an act, and they bought the rights to that for $27 million. But nonetheless, it does establish for us our sovereign rights. Now, so how do we exercise our sovereign rights? Well, first of all, we don't have enough blackfellas and supporters, non-Aboriginal supporters, to establish a military exercise against them, because we have a legal right to do it. So we have to be smart and cunning on how to exercise this. Now, I've just finished in the New South Wales Supreme Court against a government body that's trying to take the land back off my people that they bought from my people. And so I was in the Court of Appeal, New South Wales Court of Appeal, civil, on possession, in the possession court. And the government, through the Indigenous Land Corporation, won our land back. And they have asked to expel and evict our people, my mob, from the country that they bought for us. So it's quite an interesting story. But I won't go into it. But what I'm telling you, though, is this. When we talk about going to a referendum and when we're going to talk about land rights, there's two things happening. The Australian government and the legal system have separated sovereignty and land rights. They're two different things. And so sovereignty is about decision making. The power to make decision making. The power to say to us, have we got an organisation or a structural organisation within Aboriginal society where decisions are made over here, because the white fellas can't see it. And then on the other side over here, it's about property. Now when you go into the white man's court, they refuse to identify what property means in law. You won't find it. They talk about property, but they talk about property as a motor car, they talk about property as a lawnmower, they talk about property as your house, they talk about property as
apartment,
anything else. But property does not talk about land in the white legal system. And in Australia, we have a real issue on this question. So when we're fighting for land rights, what does that mean in their system? We know what it means to us because it comes to us through our ceremonies, through our stories, through our dance, through our song, and through our ceremonies. That's how we're connected to country. But we're not just connected to country, we're connected to everything that's living and everything that breathes. And I don't need to tell you anything about it because I think you've heard it over and over about our connection to Mother Nature. But what I need to say to you is this. So the governments in this country have separated decision making under our law and culture and land ownership. And how does that work? And they've done that deliberately to confuse everybody and to keep everybody running around in circles. It's very cleverly manipulated. That's how I'll talk speak later. But what is important, you see, Mark Dreyfus, the Attorney General, and his staff told the Senate committee that the voice is not going to impact on Aboriginal sovereignty. Technically, he's correct. However, there is a caveat to that. And the caveat is that, you see, they're not asking Aboriginal people if we want to be recognised in the Constitution. They're not asking us that. That sham that went on at Uluru, I was there with the elders. You'll see my ugly face in that screen that they put across there, where the red headband men are sitting there, and I'm one of them. Those men who were lawmen of Central Desert did not agree with it. They walked out when those people walked out, the delegates walked out. And so those people who were left in that room were all the staffers of the organisations that are paid for by the Commonwealth. They were the facilitators of all those regional meetings, 18. There was only 18, not all, so 18. And this country's a massive country. Now, those people who were elected to go to there all walked out. Because when Lydia Thorpe got up and on the microphone to talk in that forum, all those staffers who work for those government agencies, those what they call peak body organisations, hailed her down, they screamed her down while she was talking. And the people were saying, let her speak, let her speak. And they stopped her, they just kept howling her, and kept, making hoo and caws and so on. And so she put the microphone down and walked away and walked out. When she walked out, everybody else walked out. Half the room walked out with her. And they were the people who were chosen by those regional meetings to go and give their opinions and to talk about what their regions were talking about and why they sent them to that conference. They never talked about what we're talking about now with the government. They never. That wasn't spoken about. And by the way, it's interesting to note that when other Aboriginal people made their own way there to listen and participate in this conference, they were banned from going into the main room where the conference was being held. They had another side room where they had a television, big television screen. And so those who were not formally delegates and formal staffers of these peak body organisations who were running this meeting, they had to go into that room, sit there, so they could not participate in the mainstream conference. So they segregated that whole Aboriginal community. And by the way, the Aboriginal people at Mutijula were never invited to that meeting. That's key. They had barbecues there, they had dances there, and it all looked wonderful that the Mutijula community was supporting it. Bullshit, the community did not go to that bloody meeting. There were only 3 people from that community who sat in that room, and they were the people they were paying. And so that whole conference that went on at Uluru is really fake. That what they're doing there and the decision that they made was not what everybody did. There was only all staffers who were employed by government money who made that possible and put their hands up. They were not the delegates. They were not the delegates. And so the delegates were out of the room when that happened. And by the way, you will see where Noel Pearson and everybody, they were signing a blank canvas. That statement, that one-page statement, was never fixed to their document, that canvas that they were signing. And so that statement was not fixed. They were getting people to sign something that was blank. And we saw it. The other thing is that the elders now have been talking to me, who were there. They said, we know what happened. We know how it worked. And they saying, bring that canvas back here because we're going to light a big fire and we want to burn it. So there's no support out there for this voice in the Aboriginal community. What you have are people who are supporting it, are all people, and if you do an investigation yourself, have a look at all the Aboriginal organisations that are funded by Commonwealth government and state governments to provide a service for Aboriginal people. Not one of those organisations get any money from the Commonwealth unless they have a reconciliation plan. If you don't have a reconciliation plan built within the infrastructure and structure of your organisation, Commonwealth will not pay you to provide a service to Aboriginal people. Now the same thing happens for big mining companies, for big corporations. Big corporations have to have a reconciliation plan supporting government objectives. And if you do that, then we'll fund you and we'll give you money out of the Aboriginal Affairs budget. And we'll assist you to develop procurement programs for Aboriginal people. So what we have in this country is a blackmail system. Currently, what you're seeing on television all over this country, and from Albanese, and the way Albanese speaks about this voice and why we should have it and the reasons for it, I don't know whether many of you know about a thing called emotional blackmail.
Yep, I know that.
Right? Now, listen very carefully to how these bastards speak on television. It's emotionally blackmailing the public because they're saying, if you don't vote yes, then you'll be perceived as being a racist.
Come on.
And so Australia is being promoted by this government to say to the rest of the world that if the rest of the world looks at Australia during this year referendum, then white Australia will be seen as a country that is racist. And so that perception will go around the world. And Australia are made feel guilty about the fact that, wait a minute, we support the Aboriginal people, but at the same time we want it done right. And if we vote no in this referendum, then we're going to be perceived by the rest of the world as being equal to that of former Rhodesia and or South Africa, and maybe the South in the United States during slavery. And so what we've got to do is we have to tell the people in Australia that you can vote no and not be racist. You can vote no without putting yourself out there as being someone who has an apartheid regime. And so I will conclude on the word apartheid. I don't know how many of you read government legislation or follow what's going on in Aboriginal affairs right into the heart of government. They have a system operating in this country that controls Aboriginal people. We are prisoners of the state. We are prisoners of the state through a welfare program. Aboriginal people, and I'll start with land rights. Gary Foley, an ex-buddy of mine, running around here in Melbourne somewhere, I think he's ill now, but anyway, Gary coined the phrase that native title is not land rights. Okay, let me tell you why he says that. When you get native title, you get a bundle of rights. So a federal court says, all right, Cindy Mob, you've got native title, you have exclusive possession for your country and over your waters. Okay, so what's exclusive possession? Exclusive possession under the Native Title Act simply says you can go and hunt, fish and gather and maybe put up a little bark hut there every now and then when you want to go out and camp. When they try to persuade you, and all the native title lawyers will tell you, well, you're not supposed to put a permanent building there. So you can't go and build your own house there on land that is yours, that's exclusive. No. Why can't they do that? It's simple. If you go to every native title that's ever been determined, and I've done this in the last 5 years, you go and have a look at the State Registry Office, Land Registry Office. When you go into the State Land Registry Office and have a look at whose name is on that title, on those titles, it's not the Aboriginal nation that just got native title. It's not. The name that's on that land title in the Land Registry Office, which is exclusively granted to Aboriginal people as a successful native title claim, the title that's on those deeds in that registry office is called USL. In every state and territory, Land Registry Office. That's 51% of the land mass of Australia. And when you look at those title deeds, USL stands for Unused State Land. It does not belong to the Aboriginal people who were granted native title. It does not. What does that do?
Poison wet
What that does
sweet.
is it stops the land from having any economic value. So Aboriginal people cannot use the land to raise funds, to become independent and break away from government aid and government control through finance. That's what they do. They keep the money away from us. Now, I'll take that one step further. I do a lot of work in Western Australia and Northern Queensland and various other places, as a consultant talking with Aboriginal people who ask me to come and look at their native title, look at what they can do, how to exercise sovereignty. And so we're starting to really nail it all. But in Western Australia, let me focus on Western Australia, where all the mining's taking place, right? Now, out of one area, Port Hedland, out of the Pilbara, 19.7% of Australia's total economy goes out of that port. Anything happened to Port Hedland, this country goes broke. Trust me. That's where all the minerals go, out of Port Edward. Now, well, you put a bomb there, anything could happen. But anyway, 19% of Australia's economy goes out of that port. Now, the Aboriginal people, the Kariyara people have native title over the area. And so they're fighting there now, and I'm working with them. But here's the trouble. All them blackfellas who've got all that mining operation on their country, money from those royalties go into trust accounts. The biggest group of people who control Aboriginal trust account money sits here in Melbourne. It's called the Myers Foundation. And the Myers Foundation realised that, okay, shit, we better not be seen to be holding all this money. So they broke off little units for different areas, but they're all part of the subsidiary agencies of the Myers Foundation. And all the royalty money is held in those. And these are hundreds of millions of dollars of Aboriginal royalty money. Now, on the ground out there, they get royalty money every 6 months, twice a year. They don't get cash, because Aborigines are not allowed to get the cash. What they do is that they have to fill in a form and write down all the things they want to buy with their $2,000. And when they fill out what they want to buy, they have to take that to a special store that only takes this stuff. And they put that money into that, they put that order in there, and then they give it to you, and you can take whatever you've got on that list. And I saw in Kununurra, for example, one old woman decided, oh no, I don't need that now, I need this here frying pan. And this is a true story. She said, I need a frying pan, not that there. And she said, that's the same price for that frying pan. They refused to give her the frying pan because it wasn't on the list. And she couldn't get the frying pan. So our money, our people's money that's stored in those trust accounts cannot be moved and cannot be touched by them. And by the way, the people who control those trust accounts are white people. Like, for example, the one with the Mardu people, the Great Sandy Desert people, their trust account is run by an agency, part of the Myers Foundation. They employ 45 white people here in Melbourne and Canberra to administer the trust account. When they fly out there to have a meeting to talk to the traditional owners about the royalty money, that meeting costs $500,000 because they bring policemen and they pay for the police services, they pay for private security, pay for fly their staff out there, have a one-day meeting with the people, and they jump on a proper friendship that they hire and fly back to Perth and then fly back to Canberra and Melbourne. $500,000, one-day meeting. And that's blackfellas' money that they're using to have those meetings. Now, this is the type of shit that's going on out there in those communities, on the ground, that people in Melbourne and Sydney and other cities have no bloody idea about. And so I'll conclude by saying, when I said that this thing is a scam, what this Labor Party is doing, let me tell you, everything that they're saying that they want to do, they don't need a referendum to do it. They already have the constitutional power to do it. They've been doing it for years. We've had the NACC, we've had the NAC, we've had ATSIC. All of these were corporations. The only one that was set up with some degree of parliamentary authority was the ATSIC Commission. And so the referendum that they're talking about and saying they want to install the voice into the Constitution, right, and recognise First Nations. Well then, they can recognise First Nations in the Constitution, yes, that's number one. But then there's something that underlies that, I'll tell you. Then there's the thing about the voice. And so the voice only guarantees that Aboriginal people will have someone talking for them to that parliament. That's all it is. The mechanics of that is going to be decided after the referendum, because they're going to pass a legislation, and the legislation will determine what that body will do, what they can talk about, the issues that they can control, the budgetary, they'll only have a budget to operate their own organisation, but nothing else. It gives them no other power. And in fact, if let's say, they get a majority and we get this vote up, what that is seen by the international community as Aboriginal people agreeing to be governed by their coloniser. That's what is going to happen, right? We need to say no, and the reason, when we say no, what that does is it doesn't defeat our purposes. What it does is it sends the government back to the drawing board. And the government has to go back and start saying, well, what are we going to do from here? How do we do this? Yeah? And so they're going to have to go back and start talking to someone, because they're not going to keep those same people there. They may be, like Marcy Langdon and others. They'll be there, Linda Burney is. But these puppets, and I call them puppets, they have no authority from the grassroots Aboriginal community. They don't even liaise, they don't even talk to the people. So they're going to have to come back to us. And of course, when they come back to us, we will have a problem. Because for 4 years, I headed the NACC research on the treaty in Canberra, when Malcolm Fraser agreed to enter into a treaty process with Aboriginal people. I was the research director, and I was the national director to establish a set of terms of reference for a national framework for a treaty. Now, in that treaty, the government did agree as prerequisite to negotiating a treaty. Malcolm Fraser said, yes, let's park Aboriginal sovereignty over there, and let's park ownership of land over there, and let's work out something in the middle here. Now, the legal advice that went back to Malcolm Fraser on a treaty was trying to avoid the word treaty simply because of the fact that it has international connotations. And the international connotations is that it means that it may be that the Australian government are negotiating with another sovereign nation or sovereign nations, more than one. And with that being the case, then that brings into question the legal framework that underpins Australian legal system and parliamentary system. So now we have the people back then decided we'll find another word and we'll call it Makarrata. So this word Makarrata has been there since 1981. That Makarrata is not new. The Makarrata is the treaty. And so the Makarrata, when I got up there with people like Kumajaya Mate, who just passed, leader in Arnhem Land, the name Makarrata comes from there. And it means someone has to shed blood to settle this dispute. And there were Aboriginal people in Central Australia who knew what that word meant and didn't want the word Makarrata to be used at all, because it meant that someone had to shed blood, someone had to lose blood in order to settle the fight between us over sovereignty and land rights. And so we changed it back to treaty. And then Bob Hawke shut it all down. It was a Labor government that shut it all down. So, I can tell you a lot of stories about how what's been going on in the past, what they're doing now, and how they're about to undermine us. The international community will see this referendum, if it's successful, as us agreeing to be governed by the coloniser. We will lose our right to govern ourselves. And we will be in that constitution, and we will lose all our rights. And trust me, it will be very hard to win those rights back if this referendum is successful. Thank you.
Yay!
He's a very knowledgeable elder, so we needed him to share, So I want to introduce you now to, you might know this man, he's a bit famous out there. Let me introduce you to Anthony Mundine. I'll let him speak for himself. He's a Warrnambool man. He comes from the Warrnambool tribe of the Bundjalung Nation, and he's also my family.
Hi, Bob. I'm just here to I saw what's going on, you know what I mean? From the start, especially with, you know, with the first thing with COVID come about. I seen it coming from a mile away. I knew something wasn't right, and it was basically a fraud, you know. And they want to give everyone, you know, give everyone the poison, the bioweapon poison, and I saw it coming, and I had to speak out, you know what I mean? I had to use my platform and my profile to try and just make people aware of what's going on. And same with what's going on now with this referendum. I see it again. And, you know, it's basically a new world order takeover. They want to basically enslave humanity, man, and take, especially our black fellas, take our rights away as people. Like Uncle Michael was saying, we should be given the right to govern our own affairs as a people on our continent and our land. So I'm just here to support, to fight for your kids, fight for my kids, and fight for the future. You know what I mean? We've got to continue to fight and not step back. And I'll look the bull in the eye and come straight for it. Like, that's the mentality we have to have. Everyone's got to try and, if a lot of you is not sociable or not, not very talkative, you got to try and get sociable and get talkative, especially with the people you connect with, or you meet on the train or meet on the plane. Start to talk and try to not educate, but just start to talk the truth about what's really going on, so we can save a lot more people from going another way. Because a lot of people are on the fence, they don't know. There's a lot of hidden agendas behind the documents that they want to pull out. You know, there's no clarity, there's no details, and there's no answers. But yet they're pushing this yes vote, yes vote, yes vote, and they're putting millions of dollars to campaign in this yes vote. And a lot of people are programmed, they don't even know. You know, I mean, especially some black fellas, most black fellas ain't got much money, so they'll give me that 15 grand. I'll say yeah, you know what I mean. So it's up to us to educate as many people as we can, and I'm here to stand up and, like I said, fight for your kids, your people, my people, and all people in general, because we're a multicultural country now, and if this goes through and we fall, we all fall. You know what I mean? So I'm here to the end, baby.
Yeah. So what do you think? So do any of you want to ask Chuck a question? So we're just doing a public, he just wants to know if you got any questions. So has anyone got a question? Have you got questions about the referendum?
We'll vote no.
No!
I'll do the running.
Hey, I just want to ask, what's the support with the elders of Victoria? Like, I know there's a lot of money going into the Yes campaign, but do we have like a lot of elders waking up and trying to wake up the whole communities within your crew?
I'll run back. To tell you the truth, as you know, we all come from different nations and we all come from different tribes. And we would like to reach out to many of the elders in Victoria, because we need a national collective, a national body that we can sit at this table with all of our elders, because they are our decision makers and they are our voices. And this is what we need in this country. Because to tell you the truth, when I came here to Melbourne, I was sent by my elders and they said, tell Melbourne that we say no to the voice to Parliament. They have endorsed me to run, to share with many others, because our people and our elders, we're tight-knitted. And the Bundjalung Nation, majority of our elders are saying no to this voice to Parliament. But we have got many, just not even, a handful, but when the government is coercing and they're bribing and they're coming with money, it's hard for the younger ones to resist. A lot of our elder voices have been taken away. because of what government is doing. This government never stops in their strategic planning of divide and conquering. They know how to divide and conquer a people. They know how to divide and conquer a race. They know how to divide and conquer colour, religion, you name it. They know how to do it, and they will continue to do it even through this referendum. A yes and a no. Here it is before us. COVID, anti-vax. We don't care about who's vaccinated, who's unvaccinated. We don't care about your colour, where you're from, your religion. We're here to send a message to unify the people. We're sick of the divide and conquering strategic mechanism that government uses against the people.
Yep.
I don't care about the colour of your skin. I don't care if you're vaxxed or unvaccinated. I don't care whom you serve or your religion. I'm here as a sister because I have a message, and I want the people to know where we stand. That we're saying no to this voice to Parliament.
No.
I listen to my elders, Uncle Michael, and I listen to the stories of old, white Australians that want to hear their voices to be heard also about the truth. We're here for truth telling, because behind the Uluru Statement is a bigger agenda that is not disclosed until after the referendum. Now, do you think that's fair on the Australian people that will be voting?
No, corruption,
Well, this is what they're
corruption,
doing.
corruption.
So what says not that after this referendum goes ahead and everybody says yes? See, this is where my uncle even spoke about sovereignty. I had a yarn about this, and our sovereignty is a decision making. Let me tell you something else, what sovereignty is to me and to my people. It's connection also to your land. Anybody and everyone is self. You can have sovereignty to one's autonomy within yourself. But when it comes to being an original descendant, there's a different sovereignty. Not only is it about decision making, but it's our sovereignty to our land. The reason why our people, like we had Uncle Reverend Lindsay McDowell, he spoke about the orders that were given. On 15 minutes of contact, muskets were fired and blood was shed. No consent was ever given and sovereignty was never ceded. I am a Widjabul woman of the Bundjalung Nation. I am a living woman. We are living men and women. I belong to this land. Now why would I want to be taken from my land and put in an institution that could supersede our sovereignty, because government can never be trusted?
Yep.
Our national sovereignty actually protects Australians. You see that the Australian government, they have a thing over the waters. They because they have a treaty between PNG. I won't go into that, but anyways, let me use something as an example. Under Maritime Admiralty law, they have the Australian sovereign waters. But there's one thing that they need now is to be sovereign. They need to be sovereign of this land. In order for this government to become a republic, what do they need? Consent. They didn't ask for your consent nor want your consent back in 73 when they became a corporation, but now all of a sudden they want your consent now, Australia.
And also one 1988, which Bob Hop changed the constitution, something like that.
How about we just go back to the beginning when no consent was given?
Yep. All right.
You know what? They want you to be caught up in the complicity, the complexity of the system. It's the matrix. They don't know. They want you so confused that you don't know how to find your way out. Well, it's simple. When you come back to source, when you come back to spirit, when you come back to connection, you look them from, when you look them from the outside in, you can see it.
Lost my job due to the mandate.
When you're in it,
Yeah.
it's so confusing.
Yeah. I still
They
couldn't.
want the people confused
Yes,
because
I
they
am.
don't want the
I
people to
couldn't.
find their way out
Because you work for
of something of a system they're
No,
so stuck
I
in.
used to work for this hospital.
See, that's why our people need to,
I used to
we
be.
need
I
to
went to
unite
many
in
of
this
these
country.
rallies.
all
That's
the
so we
hospitals, they
could,
still have mandates.
we
Yes,
can find
yes.
a new way forward, but the way they're going
Yes.
about it
Yeah, I
through
heard
this
about that.
referendum is not the answer.
And
So
I went to
you
many
you
of
can't
yes,
feel
I am.
it, see
I
it,
look,
From China.
oh,
you know,
即澳洲
When I
要
was
不是以
praying
前
this
的澳洲
morning,
啦
there was，
他
something
是
that was
政
on
府
my
话
heart.
We know everything, but she doesn't know.
And it was,
Because she is quite young.
Ah.
We are not friends.
when you can
知
feel
道
it, you can see it,
真的是話個包青天
and
時
you
代
know，it,
包青天時代都
then you
給呢個
stand
band 會自威嘅。
against it if it's not right.
So all the country are the same now.
Yep.
I know a lot of people out there, they think I'm this and I think that I'm, you know, I'm that and all this here. I come in peace. See, there's one thing you got to know about me as a woman. I serve the Creator Spirit. I don't serve no corporations. I don't serve any group. I don't serve any of these things what people say. I stand for the Creator Spirit and I serve my ancestors. I spend a lot of time walking my country. I spend a lot of time on the land. He's a witness. He freaks out. He can't get over the cold swims because I don't like fluoride. So I prefer nature. But anyways, we came to Melbourne because I came with a message from my elders because my elders wanted Melbourne to know that they say no. My elders have endorsed me to speak on behalf of many. I don't have a little, and I've got elders from so many other tribes that continue to say to me, speak for us. Because people are not listening to our elders. This government has not consulted throughout every nation and every tribe. They have not consulted our decision makers, our elders. They haven't actually, Albanese and his Labor government have not been out into majority of our nations and tribe and sat at the table to say, do you want this referendum? And by the way, why is the government calling a referendum and not coming from the grassroots people? I thought this was about what we wanted, not what they wanted.
Absolutely.
That is unconstitutional right there, Australia. They are in breach, they are broken, and this is why the biggest lawbreakers, they are the biggest criminals. They are the biggest organised crime criminals, organised crime organisation, whatever you want to call it. But they are the greatest, they are the biggest lawbreakers. Everything they've told you to uphold, they have broken themselves.
Yes. Yes.
They are the biggest criminals, the lawbreakers. It's sad, you know, that they have actually gone to the Australian people to say, Australia! Oh, that just, something else just came in. I wanted to share, just touch on something that Uncle Michael said before. When he was saying that you will look like the emotional blackmail, the emotional manipulation, talking about this voice. See, if you were to say yes and put us into that constitution, the repercussions of the aftermath. Because the government is actually putting accountability on you. The Australian people wanted this, not us. That would be like the government, like that would be like the Crown when they didn't want the responsibility, or they didn't want to be held accountable for the bloodshed of our people over this continent. So what did they do? They passed the buck. And then a corporation was established in 1973 without a referendum. I spoke to a law firm and I said, listen, I said, if you want to go back to the nitty-gritty of this country, back to 73 under the Gulf Whitlam government, the Australian people can actually lodge the biggest class action against the Australian government because every single contract, every debt, every bill that you have paid from 73 up until now is null and void and invalid, and yet you were paid. There needs to be a class action. Who's got backbone to take on all what we're going to bash them with their own baton in their own system? See, a lot of people and a lot of legal organisations and structures, or whatever they may be, their own judicial system, they're challenging their own system. See, they own the system. So while you're in the system, it's controlled and owned by them because they own it all. From the Electoral Commission to parliamentary to local government to everything, it is their system. We are fighting their system. We are bashing them with their own bats.
Yeah.
This is what we struggle with. So everyone says, Cindy, do you think the Electoral Commission, will it be rigged? Well, we hope not, because there might be civil fucking war.
Yeah.
If we can see that the majority is going to say no, and the government pulls a Trump and Biden on us, well, what does that say? Where's our democracy? Out the freaking window?
Declaration of war.
Behind a referendum always comes trickery. Now, as you know, I always respect my elders, and they got a lot of knowledge, but you know what? The younger generation, we tell it a different, we can spin it a different way. But in truth, behind the referendum, and I'll go back to this because I know that we all talk about it, but behind the referendum back in 1967, the referendum. So in 1967, let me take you back to the referendum in 1967. You cannot make us citizens of our own country.
Yeah.
So they say it was a census, right? They called it a census. You know, let's get the Aboriginal people. But it actually wasn't about us. It was actually to give the Torres Strait Islanders, PNG descendants, it was actually to give them citizenships, but disempowered us. The 1967 referendum struck out two clauses, as you know. If you read the 1901 Constitution, has anyone got a Constitution with us? Anyone brought your Constitution?
Wayne Grill.
Don't just carry around your Constitution. If you have a look in the Australian, the 1901 Constitution, you'll have a look at the clause, you'll have a look at 127. Does anyone know what's there?
No. Tell us.
Because there's nothing there, they removed it. So you go from 126 to 128. There's a space in between that says amendments to the Constitution, because they took away our rights over our continent, and they introduced and they amended and they made new laws, and them laws were that they will make the laws over Aboriginal people. They introduced a new amendment in that Constitution. That was done in the 1967 referendum without telling the people that they were actually going to disempower the original tribal sovereign descendants of this continent. It gave Torres Strait Islanders recognition. They became Australian citizens, but it disempowered my people. You can always look at the good in it. You know, my uncles and that, they've got big arts, and I understand, but you've also got to look at the wrongdoings that were done through the process also. There's been a lot of wrong done in this country, and it's time to make it right, but the way that they're going about this referendum is not the way that it should be done. They have caused nothing but division, so they did it through the COVID process.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing it all. We thought that it was going to be better with Labor. Oh, what was we thinking?
You're all the same.
They just swapped seats, but they're all driving the same agenda. They all serve the same master. They only swap seats. So the reason why we've come here, we've come to share with Melbourne. Where's Melbourne?
Absolutely.
My uncle said if you want to draw the flag, the crowd says, I need to align myself. Well, I try my best, but sometimes they need to come and meet me halfway. I can't do everything. So this is where we're at, and it's a no from us.
It's a no from us.
No. No.
If I say no, you say no. Ready? No.
No. No.
No.
No.
Yeah, that sounds good. I reckon you can do it louder. But anyways.
Give us another go.
Do it again?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? I say no, you say no. No.
No.
No.
No.
No.
No.
No to what?
公投說不。
So I just wanted to say that all my elders, before I go, I want to share something with you because my uncle was talking about a treaty, right? I brought our treaty with me, with us, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about a treaty, thank you. I've got some stickers here too. If anyone wants to grab a sticker, can I show you the stickers?
Yes.
So, if you want a sticker, this is from the tribal people. No tribal boys. So, if you want a sticker, come and grab them.
Yes, please.
Come on, darling. Okay. Just share it. Don't be greedy, like the government.
Me and my friend.
Oh, sorry.
You all missed out.
If I could have my brother up here with me for 2 seconds. So as you know, you call him
I was up here first.
the man Anthony, the man Mundine.
Okay.
Give him another applause.
Oh my god. You're amazing. Take a photo when you
Yeah, when we.
wait.
I want to share with you about when we talk about treaties. So
Oh my god, I love him.
you got the Gammon Gully. I'm going to call it the Gammon Gully.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm starstruck.
Does someone want to, brother? You want to come and?
Oh my
someone
gosh.
Just hold it.
I
I'll
love-
explain.
You're amazing.
Where's the sticker? I got no sticker.
So we've got this treaty, and within the Bundjalung Nation we have 4 treaties. But what we're doing is that we're actually treatying between
I'm
tribes,
starstruck. I love that he's
not with
I'm a big
government.
fan.
Because these treaties actually under the United Nations, under international
okay, oh my
laws,
God,
give us the
stop
rights to
it. Oh my God, I'm starstruck.
self-determination. We no longer want to be a part of the corporate world. We want to be our own
Everybody deserves equal
people.
rights.
We want our own government.
Oh,
We're not here to take your money. We don't want your money. We're not government.
justice.
We just want justice, and we want to be able to. We don't want to be dictated to anymore. We don't want to be under dictatorship. We want to actually for the government to come to us and say, what can we
Everybody
do
deserves
for
equal
you,
rights.
or what
We all deserve equal
We're
rights.
sick of them
I'm
coming to
Russian.
us saying this is
I
how
know
it's going
like
to
in
be.
these streets that we
You
are,
know, this is
everybody
what
deserves
you.
equal rights. And
These treaties actually give us diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
The treaties all that much. When they're done by tribe, Chop, can I just get this one?
Oh wow. Oh my gosh. I love him. He's so best.
Yeah, wait. So, as you can see, I've been travelling throughout, and I'm not finished. So these are the treaties that we're talking about, and we have several treaties now between tribes. These treaties become a threat to government because they are done between tribes and not with government. This treaty, so I'm going to read to you what the treaty says. The Widjabul Tribal Nations Treaty with love. One of the elders put that there. We, the undersigned, tribes, clans, families of our respective tribal nations hereby acknowledge recognise, respect and support the national sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Widjabul, the rights of the Widjabul people to self-determination, the rights of the Widjabul people to protect, defend and conserve the country, their culture and lawful rights. Agree to uphold our diplomatic relations with Widjabul with respect and peace. That the rights of all the people dwelling upon Widjabul lands are protected under Widjabul tribal jurisdiction. That means we don't want you paying rent. We don't want you,
Welfare.
giving up your land or anybody. We want to live freely. This country needs to be free. We need to be free because look what money has done.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't need money. You might need it now, but there's nothing wrong with a good old bartering and trading, going back to the old ways. Money, the monetary system is theirs. My people survived for millions of years, thousands, probably wasn't here millions here, we weren't here. But my people have survived upon this continent for thousands and thousands and thousands of years without money. We had a trading system. We need to look for new ways forward. It deprives us of all our rights in this country. But Australia, they're asking you to do the job, to finish the job. They're asking you to commit cultural genocide against my people through this referendum. They're actually asking you that it's okay, like my uncle said, that it's okay that, for you to say yes, to be governed by our colonisers. That's what you're saying yes to. You're actually saying that you want the original tribal sovereign descendants of this continent to be governed by their colonisers. That's what you're saying yes to.
Don't want that.
And to take away, but in order for them to have this referendum and supersede our sovereignty, see, they need ownership. For them to become a republic in this country, they need to own the land. In order to own the land, what do they need to do? They need to hold a referendum and they need to supersede our sovereignty to take ownership.
No.
That's why we need to say no. And that means we can't no longer, once they take ownership, we don't know what the replication or what the consequences for after, because they're not disclosing anything about what they're going to do to this country, to the people of this continent until after the referendum. Now that there in itself is scary.
Criminal.
That is not transparency.
So now I want to show you something else. We petitioned the king.
Yeah. Come on, the king.
So this is the original. I'm the troublemaker.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
Bravo.
You speak up.
So I'm going to read
Bless her soul.
the petition to King Charles and his representatives, the Governor General of Australia. To His Royalty. Gammangully. We have our own kings and queens, and my mum is my queen. Okay. My mum's brothers, they're my fathers, and they're our kings. So, to His Royalty Majesty King Charles III, His Excellency,
Hey, hello.
the Honourable
This is the first day I heard of you
David
today.
I'm sorry.
This is the first time I heard about you.
Oh,
Yeah.
We, the undersigned
look,
sovereign people
I-
of this
I lost
land,
my
born
job
into
due to
our
the
tribal
mandate.
nation, tribes
What did you
and
do?
lands,
I'm used to work for hospital, and they asked me to take that fucking poison, and I asked them to sign a letter of liability. They wouldn't sign it, and what my supervisor said, it's not my responsibility to look into the adverse effects of this thing, and which they administer many of your people, which they bribe many of your fellow elders to administer this.
No
And
consultation
did you know one dirty little history? During the American Civil War, before that, some of the Native Americans were involved in the black slave trade, and they were siding with the Southerners during the Civil War. At least 50% of them.
I know, I've been in America and I've worked there.
It's just way dirty what these bastards divided the tribe. And during the British, French, French Indian War, 50% of fighting were against the natives.
That's right.
They were fighting for the British and on the side of the they divide them to fight against each other.
And that includes consultation with the elders of all individual tribes.
Given what they done to you, they asked you for your consent. That's
It will be
fucking
regarded
ridiculous.
as a
And
breach of our tribal law.
was sponsoring the yes vote. This is a red flag. That's the company that poisoned all of your people with that thing.
Requesting our
And a lot of
consent.
people died.
We hereby notify you, His
And I'm sure you know a lot
Royal
of your fellow
King
Aboriginals
Charles
died, and not my
III
fellow
and the
Asians
Governor
died.
General
Yeah.
David
Not my fellow
Early.
Australians
That
died because of
consent
this,
was
or
never
Egypt because
given
of
nor
this.
requested to
right.
engage
You're right.
on matters
He was such a
regarding this
no-BS, and I used to
referendum.
respect him a lot.
One
and
nation
Marcia
cannot
Landry spoke
decide
about
for
the
other
drug problem and
nations.
things like that.
Yeah.
And they
The
just
Crown has no authority
Damn
to make
it.
laws for the undersigned nation, tribes or clans without a lawful treaty being in place first. The Crown Commonwealth can only make laws for subjects of the Crown Commonwealth, of which we are neither. The Constitution only applies to the subjects of the Crown Commonwealth. This is a usurpation. I always get that word. This is a usurpation of authority that the Crown Commonwealth does not possess, given that no treaty exists with the listed nations on this petition, or indeed with any tribal nation on this continent. This referendum does not and cannot apply to the original tribal people of this land to bring them under the Crown or Commonwealth. The issue of a treaty with the tribes has never been resolved by the Crown, and until then, this referendum cannot go forward. We hereby request you cease and desist all or any actions required by you to issue the writs pertaining to the voice referendum or to bring this matter in any form to the Australian people. We, the undersigned clans, hereby petition the Crown under the tribal seal of our people. And they have got signatures and more signatures. And this is from our people. And we have already petitioned the King. We have sent several documents to David Early and to the British Commission and everything. So they cannot deny that we have not, stood, how can I say, in our power. And this is where we're at, Australia. So I wanted to let Melbourne know we have came, we have been, we have seen. No, I'm not going to do.
Thank you for letting me live in your beautiful country. No, I love your country.
Thank you, sister.
No,
You're welcome on my country when you come that way. I come from the
I
Bundjalung.
may be from Russia, but I love your beautiful country. Thank you for letting me live here.
I better tell you a joke, right?
Okay.
So, whenever everyone would say, they'd be in a hurry and they say, come on, Yumberley, let's go, Anyways, they turn around and they say, I'm not Russian, I'm Aboriginal.
But we're all the same. We look cut us up and we look the same on the inside, so we are family.
Yeah, but I had to just tell you that joke.
No, I like that one. That's really good.
I'm an Aussie home.
Every time our people were in a hurry or whatever, they rush us out the door.
I can't
That's
mention
what they used to turn around and say, I'm not Russian, I'm Aboriginal.
You resent me because of I've asked the question and I've raised this point, so I have to.
No, but I love that. Oh. No, so that's really good.
Yeah.
Laughing is the best medicine, laughing is very good for you.
Okay. So as you know, there's a question going around on social media about be aware that there is trickery with the 2 questions. Okay.
I'm a new permanent resident.
So this is a message. Oh, sorry. May I?
It's just stupid.
So the government has actually set up a trick in the referendum to come for the voice. There's 2 questions. One is going to weigh more than the other. So if you tick yes to the question, do you recognise the Indigenous people? Oh, can I touch on this?
Yeah, that's the poison in the sweet.
Okay, let me tell you something about Indigenous. So you know the Native Americans, right? The Native Americans, they were given a title under the UN, by the UN, as First Nations. So that title actually came from the UN, not from the Native Americans. We too have been given that many titles in this country. We are recognised we're first title, we're Aboriginal, and then we were given a title, Indigenous. Well, Indigenous actually means when you define the definition or the definition of Indigenous means anybody born of that continent. Now let me tell you a little something about that little box. When you tick I'm Indigenous, that means anybody born of this continent. You know the government can actually use that against us because you don't have to prove who you are, your bloodline, your DNA, your Aboriginality or any of that. You only have to tick a box. Now that's scary when the government wants to introduce something like that because that means that anybody can speak for us.
That's fucked.
They don't have to be, from that tribe or wherever you're from or any blood connection to any tribe. That means anybody Indigenous can speak. Now,
that hospital is
that's why it's important when they ask you, do you recognise Indigenous? You need to say no, because that Indigenous could mean anybody. That's not referring, because I am not Indigenous, I am witchable. I come from a tribe. So when we talk about, so what is the right title when you're talking about a whole people, a people that you put under a title, but yet it means anybody born of this continent? There's trickery behind everything.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
That means nobody has to show that they're Aboriginal or their DNA or, their tribe or where they come from, their genealogy. No one has to produce it. They could just tick a box, I'm Indigenous so I can speak for black fellas. We can't allow that. Because that means that the government will put anybody in that position to govern us, to make decisions about our lives and our affairs. So we need to be careful in everything that we're doing. You need to look behind the smoke screen. You need to do your own work. You need to, you know what, if you don't know what a word means, because I do it all the time, that's how I educate myself. I do my own work. If I don't know what a word means, I go looking and I go deeper and I go deeper and I go deeper and I go deeper. You have to do your own work. You've got to look at everything. So say no. Yeah. So anything about anything to the referendum, just no. If they want you to write no.
No.
Because I am not Indigenous. I am not Aboriginal. I am witchable. I come from a tribe. So why is that? Why are we all under one title? This is where we struggle. Because we're not acknowledged truly about who we are as a people. They put us under all these titles that they created so they can continue to oppress us and control us.
And rip you off.
We don't get no money, by the way.
Yeah.
And to all these people out there that have been, do you know why for years and generation to generation and generation to generation, they tell the Australian people, oh, you black fellas, you got free houses, you got free cars, you get free rent. Well, the Yes Mob are doing a good job at that, eh? They can free everything right now. But this is what they're saying. Do you know why the government, why this narrative is out there? To keep us divided.
Yeah.
It is not true.
It's not true.
My people are living in third world conditions that the cities have not seen. All the money that is filtrated through these corporate organisations,
NGOs.
it never reaches our people because the people that are in these positions are not black fellas. The people that are running these organisations like the NIAA, like land councils, it's not black fellas. Our people don't see this money that they say that we're receiving. Our people pay rent on their own land.
That's fucked.
I'll use something as an example. 26 years I lived in the Northern Territory. My husband came from Daly River. I buried my husband in January. He passed away in January this year. I buried him in February back home in the Northern Territory at the Daly River. I buried him on his country. That's where he wanted to go home. We did it traditionally. I took my husband home. I buried him back home on his country. But there's a place called Wadeye. They wanted to do a 99-year lease, right? All that country was under an Aboriginal land trust. So they wanted to build homes, so they had this new 99-year lease that came through, and the people at Wadeye, Port Keats, they actually owned their lands. And it was like, okay, we're going to do a deal with you. We'll build you new homes. That was great. They all thought they were all getting new homes. But there came a catch that they never told my people about over in Wadeye. After they built the homes, they turned around and said to my people, they said to my people, now you have to pay rent.
Oh,
What the hell?
bullshit.
If you want to live in this house, now you've got to pay rent. They never told them that. Till after they built the house and had them living in there, they had to pay rent. And ever guess what? It was their own Aboriginal land. So this is how the government moved in. After they did that to them, they couldn't pay rent. They said, if you don't pay rent, we have to kick you out of your house on their land.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Downright rip off. Downright rip off.
So that's what happened. I'm using it. I'm telling you. And this is what goes on. The government always comes in with a trick up their fucking sleeves. Never trust government. Don't care if they're the Greens, if they're Labor, they're Liberal, they're any of them. A politician, a political party, never, like they say, a leopard never changes its spots. Well, they always have a fucking agenda and they never fucking change theirs.
They're bastards! Like your friends.
So never trust government.
You're amazing.
And I don't serve anyone, I serve Creator, by the way. I have no agenda. That I'm a book of people.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
And also one thing, Pfizer was forced.
Thank you, Melbourne. Thank you, Melbourne.
Yeah, but you're right about climate change.
You're registered, so what you know.
People that took your country by it, it's an honour to live in your country. I've got plenty. I've got plenty. So you can share. You know, we can share the good news. I know. You're right. You're amazing. But no, I love your country.
Okay, everybody, you guys want to march a little bit? March around the street? All right.
Just wait, this is how this is. Yeah. I run a public notices website. Yeah. And I've got lots of advice giving access to
I can, if you let me know, I can just send it to you. Okay. Yeah.
excuse me, Cindy. You are the first. Oh, what?
Thank you. Get up there and next one, she gotta go. Catch the plane back. I'll have a hang on. Oh, yeah.
Not one of you. Not one of you. Yeah, the sun's coming out.
Yeah, I paid for that.
I just want to give you a hug. I've been in communication with you. I often think this day. She's got to go. That's awesome. She's got to go shortly. Yeah.
It's a shame. Next time. And we've got the
fucking headlight. No, I'll fucking country down and watch you.
Hello, as an Aussie Hong Kong, I would like to say I vote no. Because the no was sponsored by notorious company named Pfizer, which caused a lot of your death on your people by force injecting them. And they brought a lot of elders promoting that shot. I lost my job because of this. I don't want to take that shot. And they poison your people with this thing and they're asking you for this 70 bullshit.
They're not gonna.
I'll try to persuade many of my Asians to vote no because they're using them to implement this.
I was looking at your face, I'm thinking, you're for me.
Protest going on. There's one down there as well.
Okay.
I saw you a couple of months or so ago on video and I went,
From the bush.
you should be so beautiful.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you, do you know of her party?
Yeah, I do.
What are your thoughts behind what he did?
It's so much. If you want to, I'll give you I'm on Instagram, you can message me. It's just, that's a long conversation. Hey, hello.
And the tricky thing is that the government using your name to commit those bad things.
Mebangari is my Instagram account. It's just Mebangari. That's my Instagram account.
No. 0497, is that? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Just want to have a photo with you and give you a hug too.
I know you. I think I saw you on a Facebook page about your encounter with Victoria Police. I think that maybe the other one. That was 3 years back, maybe 4 years back. I can't remember. You look similar to a woman that was you know what you call that 3 years back during the lockdowns when you encountered the Victoria Police on your car or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe that's another woman.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I'm just going to hello.
Can I get a little t-shirt? I paid.
I know there.
Follow her on Instagram. That's what she's got.
Your hand, Deb. Okay,
I'll just have a quick word to Cindy. G'day, Cindy, I'm Randall.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hug. We met in Canberra, you wouldn't remember anyway. But I was just down at the other rally that we do here each week, and unfortunately you had to fly out. But I was going to invite you to join us. We have PA and we walk around the public. Okay, to talk to the public.
I'd like to come back here again.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, maybe you've got details from Judy to your Instagram. Okay, so Judy can communicate with you, and maybe if we can coordinate, you get down here, you join us on a public march. Randall. Okay. All right.
And I'm on Instagram. Just look for Mebangari.
I'll get Judy to give it to you, all right? Okay, good on you, mate. Thank you.
Can I get a t-shirt? All right, thanks, mate.
No, look, I'm stuck.
Debbie, he wants one of these shirts.
I just got it made up.
There goes
Thank you.
I'm going to set it up on the scooter on the top.
Yeah.
That's when Mark Shepard says.
The payment actually.
I just went to yes, Brandon got it made up.
Well, if you can get another one, I'm going to take it.
Yes, can I have some?
No.
I haven't never asked you to do that.
Give me some more. Thank you.
Why not? I do it on the plane.
Yep.
Thanks a lot for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. I'm with you, Aboriginal people. I'm so very much.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, bless you. Oh, thank you.
I know he's not.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you have as many 20 sisters like that, but not like you.
Yeah, I want this country to be. Yeah, and uncle, yeah. Come on, we gotta.
Yeah. Sorry, Cindy. Sorry, Cindy. I haven't said to you. My YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber. I'm an Aussie Hong Konger. I watch you on the Dale channel too. So I may come to see you next week. Okay. On a similar valley.
Oh, don't forget. Yeah, I forgot about everybody. We're in Sydney next weekend, Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah, bless you. Bless you, sister. Thanks for your play. Yeah. Uncle Michael, can I? Someone quick enough? I just want to get.
And hello. Yeah. Yeah. I am still unemployed. I lost my job due to the vax mandates, and I'm still unemployed.
Terrible.
I lost my job for almost 2 years already, and some of the companies I applied for still asking for back
How are you
status.
surviving?
Look, I save a lot of money, and plus my dad is paying for my rent for the last 2 years, so at least I can survive. Because also my mom passed away back in Hong Kong two years ago. I couldn't go back to see her last face, and she left over some money for me. So, but I don't know how long I can last.
Yeah.
Look, the government can't look. The government.
Another one.
I got it.
Hello.
G'day, mate.
Yeah. I lost my job due to mandates, and the government have the audacity to say that we give Aboriginal boys. Did they ever give them boys when they implement this fucking thing? No. And they didn't even let me to go back on the workplace. I tried other jobs, and some of them are still asking for vax mandates, vax status. How dare they?
Yeah, it's terrible.
And my aunt in Canada, who was at me a few months ago, I told her that some of the companies, some of the bosses still asking for vax status, and she said, "Are you kidding me? We don't ask that in Canada anymore."
Very backward country, Australia.
It just shocks her. I mean, even my aunt, and the second sentence I told my aunt that we Australia still pushing people to get a vaccine, and she said, "Just ignore them. It's over." How shocking! My aunt already has a bad image of Australia already from this. The Australian government making a fool of us. Fucking hell. Look, some of the bosses, when I'm part of jobs, they're still asking for a back status. They're still asking for your back status.
I know, especially in the health.
I stay on welfare. I don't want to stay there.
You know what's going to happen? We're going to be creating our own hospitals and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our own community.
They have the audacity to say that after they implement these facts on the Aboriginal people like us, and they couldn't even look after us back on our jobs after this, still asking for a back status. Come on. Even my aunt is so shocked when I told her that we are still asking for your back status here. And she said that in Canada, and she's Vancouver, Canada, and she said, we in Canada don't ask that anymore. What's going on with you? This is embarrassment. Embarrassment after embarrassment.
G'day, mate.
Yeah, I lost my job due to the vax mandate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've heard your speeches before. Where can I see your videos?
Aussie Hong Kong, YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber.
YouTube. Oh,
Yeah.
you're not on Facebook.
He's the Aussie Hong Konger.
Yeah.
Oh, because I always thought you were platform Melbourne, but I wasn't sure.
No, that's the big guy.
YouTuber.
The one that always has a run-in with the coppers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, where do I find you? Not on Facebook? Or
YouTube.
YouTube.
And
Yeah,
Aussie Hong Konger.
Yeah, just filter.
Word.
You have to filter to go to channel part. You have to filter it when you type in, and then they show you whole thing, right? But you got to go to filter and serve a channel, okay? That's what it is.
Hong Konger.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with remembering things, so I'll say
Yeah,
it
yeah, I
doesn't
know. Yeah. 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 Yeah, see you.
And they still pushing.
Ha 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 ha. Yep, 佢哋而家12點鐘個 Valley 啦。Okay, we are reaching the 12 o'clock Valley. We just finished the 10 a.m. Say no to the voice Valley, so we are reaching the 12 p.m. Valley. Okay. OK， 我哋完成咗10點鐘個向公投說不個 Valley， 而家就12點鐘個 Valley 啦。OK。
Is that ABC?
Yeah. You know, you should say to him.
自己咁樣諗㗎，明白？冇 intent 係冇 intent 講㗎。And this
Do you have this one on?
Yep. Oh, it's underneath.
My tongue. Oh no.
I'm wondering if that's well. Of course, we need him. Not on this one. Show me, prove it.
But aren't they the ones that exempt the companies from putting
Exactly. No,
the information?
but you got a reputable fucking reputation. Where's your reputation? Where is it? He didn't even ask you that question either, you wanker. They come out at a humming, like fucking automated.
有没有找到工作？现在
现在没有啊。
就是你找的都是 hospital。
对。
That's the arrest warrant for Albanese. He's a traitor to the state, to this country.
都是在 hospital 的，所以你们
不是 hospital， 其他的工作都不可能的，我不知道为什么。对，其他的公司都找不到，我不知道为什么。我不知道为什么。
做 IT 还做什么？
做一些 processing 啊 ，warehousing 啊，因为我之前在香港做过mail sorting 啊，做过一些香港邮政 postal。就是那些不是香港邮政，就是在就是 sorting letter， 对，就是 processing 工作，就是 warehousing 工作，对，但是我知道我试过很多次了，我不知道啊，但是他们都
我觉得私人的公司应该是现在都不需要的，
我不知道
sector 我知道是要的，
对。
我有朋友在childcare工作，
对，
他们就要打3个
对，
然后他打了2个戒以后，他发现这个东西很不安全嘛，
对，
然后他不想打第2个，
对，
所以要不想打的话呢，他就是因为他是 casual 工作，他就不叫你去工作了。
OK。
所以，但是他女儿还在读大学，所以他没有办法放弃这个工作，所以他后来等到那个 no澳有一个。
You guys want to start marching here, guys? Guys, count.
他说我就再冒一次风险吧，然后就是我再打一针的话，我就已经工作能 keep。所以其实真的是我觉得
不引导啊，我知道。
这个就好像是在 murder 一样。
对，我知道啊，我很早知道啊。
你没有工作，你没有收入，然后你实在逼得没有办法有钱给他打针。
对。
这一针的话也不知道是不是进。
拿 welfare， 我有拿 welfare， 我现在有拿 welfare 过户啊。
对啊，但是这不是长久之计啊。
对。
就是大家都应该要依靠自己啊。
对。
你靠他的话，他就可以提条件，
明白了。
他就可以跟你交换条件。
明白。对。
而且你会，因为你长期如果拿了一个就是什么 allowance 或之类的话，你不去工作，你的 skill 就没有了。
对。
那你将来他突然之间有一天他说如果你不打针的话，我不给你发养老金，我不给你发那个 allowance， 那你怎么办？那如果你有 skill 的话，你还能生存下去。
对。
是不是？他就是把你天天绑架了。
对。甚至是包青天时代都不如哎。
你何况是什么时候来？
我很早来到这里了，1989年，跟我爸爸妈妈来这里。
那你头脑很清楚啊，因为你
对，我都是这3年才能看清楚他们真面目。
对。但香港的话，现在
没办法了，我都没有我不知道哪里去哎，所以我现在好像
UK 也一样啊。我们的朋友当中有一个就是 British lady， UK 他说也是这样啊，没有区别，现在没有区别，就是 one world government。
真的。
一个几百个人的组织就控制整个世界。
对。我去过很多 rally 耶，上年我在横皮拉那边。
他们好像是用 energy weapon。
对，我在这里耶，我知道我没有事，但是我看了很多警报，在这1年半以来，这2年来，我看你不少很。
policeman 以前你们Hong Kong啊，就是你老家那个地方。
对。
Hong Kong 的 policeman 他们说以前很 nice， 跟市民的关系非常好。
对，我知道。
变得就是大家就互相之间就是那种。
对，在欧洲也是，他们也不是我们以前的，唉。
我觉得 policeman 呢，就是大多数他们也是打工的人嘛。
对，我知道。
都是好人，但是他们的 leader 是坏的。
生气，他们的生气，所以在欧洲是真的是连宋朝的包青天时代都不如哎。
现在，所以说呢，就是全世界的人要觉醒。
对，我知道啊。
因为我们人数多。
对对对。
过来的话，他们也尝试不一定能推这个 agenda 2030。
我知道啊，我知道啊，所以我们要尽力跟我们身边的朋友说，不要投 no。
你可以跟一些人 networking 嘛，让他们看看能帮你介绍嘛。
哦，对对。
跟老外多
我知道，Yeah. Okay, 谢谢。I don't know. I have to have a meal. We guys have a meal yet, so I have to have my lunch. Okay.
Come and have a lunch with us.
Yeah, I haven't have a meal. I haven't got lunch. Okay.
The new currency. The digital currency. You got the 15-minute video.
Okay.
Right now in London, they have 2 50-minute cities. Each having more than 50 minutes outside of your zone is a $10 fine. So we're going to stand for freedom. We're a democratic nation. We're a community. We're a village. I love you guys.
我而家暫時喺度停 live，OK，因為我要食飯，OK，所以請你覺醒嘅人，呢幾人覺醒人請你 subscribe 我 channel， 或者你可能喺度打咗呢啲嘢之後覺醒，或者呢幾人覺醒嘅話，請你 subscribe 我 channel，OK。Okay, I will stop my life because I have to have my meal. Because I have a meal, I haven't had breakfast, so I have to have my lunch. Okay, so I have to stop my life now for now. So I covered the 10 a.m. Rally, no rally. So yep, thank you very much. And if you're awake in the last few years, please subscribe my channel. And if you are awake, your family and friends who take take that thing and awaken, please subscribe to my channel. Okay. So thank you very much. Okay. Yep. Okay, just tell your friends and family who are awaken, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have friends, families who taken the thing and then awaken, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Bye bye. I'll have my live here. Bye bye.